welcome to By the Way with Beth and Stacey. I am Beth Cooper.
I'm Stacey Early Wine, and it's another nice fall feeling day.
It is. It's so beautiful outside, and it's chilly. I think it was like, my car said 55 degrees.
Isn't that crazy?
The 50s are my favorite. I'm just going to say, like, the 50s temperature range.
The 50s, everything is my favorite.
Well, yeah, I love the 1950s too, but no, I love, like, the 50s of the temperature range.
I'm a 70s girl. I like it.
That's nice, but
I like the 70s with the wind blowing to air out my house.
Yeah.
What is it going to get hot today?
I don't know.
What was it? My friend Chris Roopson posted, okay, that we're having winter this morning and spring in the afternoon, and then the dead of summer at 2 o'clock, and then fall at 7. Yeah, it is kind of crazy. I like the change of seasons. I don't think I'd ever want to live somewhere where I didn't have a change.
I don't think I would either. Yeah, and staying at home and working from home all day is a little bit weird when it comes to weather because I don't always know what it's doing outside. So like yesterday, Silas had a baseball game at 4:30. Well, I was really comfortable in our house in jeans and a sweatshirt. That's just what I had because we'd had the windows open the night before. It wasn't cold in there, but it was just right for a sweatshirt. And so I got my shoes on and went to the game, got my lawn chair, sat out there right in the middle of the sun.
Oh,
and I'm like,
melting.
Right. I should have thought this out a little bit better. I should have put it on a t-shirt.
When you start baseball, you wear layers.
Yes, yeah.
You wear layers.
Well, far it's been hot.
Now
I just had a t-shirt on at every game, and jeans and a t-shirt. I'm usually really comfortable.
Yeah, it's like there's a certain point because like when baseball starts, it's super same way with football. When football season, you're melting, but then by done you're freezing.
Yes.
So there's a layering point.
Yeah.
Then there's just
I've been to 2 football games so far this year. The first one was in Carmi, and it was an away game, and I sat there and sweated, and it was hot, and I was miserable, and I hate the heat.
Who are you watching?
Carissa's boyfriend plays. Cameron Boyer.
I can't believe
football.
Little Chris has got a boyfriend.
Drove her to Carmi to watch her boyfriend play football.
You are such a good mom.
I am a good mom. Yes, I am. And so
yes, you are.
So then I went to the home game this past Friday night at Flora, and I got cold. Because, it was a big difference one week to the other.
I don't remember what I was doing. I was tired Friday when I got home. I'm getting some blood work done, figuring out what's wrong with me. Menopause is killing me.
Menopause is kicking your butt,
Menopause is killing me. And I'm telling you, so I finally broke down and went and had a bunch of blood work done. So hopefully in the next week or so, I'll find out what's going on with me because I'm a head case.
Well, we need your energy back. You've been a little low energy, and I'm used to high energy.
I know, I am. I was hoping to have something done before this weekend for the Shadows of Elmwood.
Oh, yeah.
But I can fake it. I'm an actress.
You fake it till you make it, girl. So Shadows of Elmwood, we talk about it a lot, but real quick, another quick plug for it, if you didn't watch last week's episodes, is this coming weekend. So this episode is going to air on either Thursday or Friday, and Shadows starts on Friday night. It's Friday night, the 13th and 14th, or 12th and 13th.
Yeah, can you believe we're going to be out there on Friday the 13th?
Is that it? Friday the 13th?
I think Friday's the 13th.
Friday the 13th, I will be in the cemetery in a scene all by myself. Are you by yourself?
I'm by myself, but I'm at the depot this year.
You're at the depot. Well, you'll still have a kind of a spooky effect.
No, I'd rather be in the cemetery, but my character is not buried in Clay.
Okay.
She's from Xenia. She's from Clay County, but she's buried in a psychiatric cemetery. Up in Monty.
Yeah. It's gonna be good.
I play a crazy lady, and I love this woman.
Well, I'm glad she's not really there. She was nuts, but it's
she
fun
was
to
nuts.
portray her, I'm
great.
sure. So
it's an easy part for me to play.
Well, hey, the good thing about you being at the depot is that you will have your part done before anyone else in the cemetery, so you can actually get home a little earlier.
I've been at the depot. This is my second time maybe at the depot. And because whenever you're done, you can leave. So I won't be in the cemetery till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning.
So we're usually out there very late, and it's tons of fun. It's not scary. It's not spooky. It is historical. So if you like to hear us talking about history, local history on the show, then you would love Shadows of Elmwood. If you're worried about getting into a hay wagon, there are golf carts for those that cannot physically get on and off of the wagon, and it's real easy to just tell somebody quietly, hey, I would probably need to ride in the golf cart, and they'd be like, okay, follow me. There's also, if you're not interested in waiting in line for a really long time, because sometimes the line does take a few hours to get through, you can pay $25 and go to the front of the line.
Now, how does that work for like the skits that are at say you buy the $25 front of the line pack?
So like
you get to stay, you can stay, just go.
Yeah.
Just skip.
So my husband, for one, he always pays the $25 ticket. The reason he does it is because he looks at it like it's a fundraiser, which it is. Our family supports the Flora Rotary because they do a lot for Flora and Clay County. So he looks at it like a fundraiser. He pays the $25 and then he doesn't wait in line because he's usually got other things to do. So he will slowly walk by the ones that are performing at the depot, listen to their skit, and then go up and say, I'd like to do the $25 ticket. And they're like, okay, you're on the next wagon.
Now, does he prepay? Can you pay for that at the depot?
Yeah. All the tickets are at the depot.
At the depot. Nothing's sold.
Yeah, nothing is sold. No tickets are sold prior. It's all at the door.
Yeah, I'm never on that end of the thing. I don't know what's going on.
And there's so while you're waiting in line, there's performers there to keep you entertained as well as concessions. Three or four this year. I don't remember.
Can't remember.
I think 3. I think they usually do 2, and this year there's 3 or something.
What kind of concessions we got?
I don't know. I think there's usually like hot dogs and candy.
Didn't we do popcorn or sometime?
We did do popcorn one year. 1 or 2 years we did popcorn.
Yeah.
No, it was the depot, I think, that did popcorn.
Oh, was the depot? The depot board?
Depot.
Okay. I can't remember. I knew something. We were involved in popcorn somehow.
Somehow I was in charge of running a popcorn machine, which I had never done before. So it was like, get these high school volunteers set up to pop popcorn all night and then run out to the cemetery. And then when I come back, hopefully they had it cleaned up and put away. And they did a fairly good job of it.
They did a pretty good job of that.
Yeah,
this weekend we went camping. We went out to Oil Belt, and I liked it out at Oil Belt. Didn't want to go far, but and you talk about a beautiful evening for a campfire. Man, this weekend was fantastic.
Yeah.
It was just what I needed. And
good.
We took Vixen out there, and my little dog, and then actually there's nobody camping out at Oil Belt right now. And then you just make a donation to the campground. It's a nice little camp, nice little shower houses.
I've been out there for family camp. When they have family camp, there's a lot of campers out there. Yeah. Which I don't camp, but I like to show up at my friends' campers and hang out and then go home and sleep in my own bed.
Do you?
Yeah. I just kind of crashed the party for a couple hours. That's my...
Well, and I liked it because like I had... I have 2 other big dogs. I have Saffron, who's a Lab Husky mix, and then we have Raptor, who is a Corgi. So Jim, we like to take them camp, but sometimes like they're, Saffron's a bigger dog, and Raptor's a 2-year-old Corgi, so he's crazy. So like they could just run around. I mean, there was nobody there except for Jim and I, and so we just let them run in that little field right there. Of course, I did have to watch them because I had to carry a doggy doo-doo bag. Yeah.
Yeah, don't want anyone stepping in any of that.
No. I am that person that I have my bags and I pick up my dog's waste. And, but you know what? It's crazy because, like I said, Saffron's a 90-pound lab. Little different than picking up 4-pound Vixen's waste.
Oh, I bet so. Big difference. Big difference.
Big difference. But anyway, so that's fun. But it was a beautiful weekend. And,
it was. Sunday, I hope this weekend's beautiful, too. I heard there's a chance of rain.
Oh, they are.
I'm hoping that changes. Well, it's that hurricane from down south.
We got a hurricane happening?
Yeah, and I guess it's sending some rain up or something. That's what someone told me.
What's our percentage?
I don't know.
Did you see the humidity is supposed to be super duper high, but it's not supposed to be super duper hot? Did you see that?
No.
Because I was looking, Abby and I were talking about today, and I was like, I think the high, like Friday and Saturday nights, only supposed to be like 79, 80. I mean, it's going to be up there, but I mean, at one time I thought it was going to be like 90.
Yeah. Ooh, I don't want it to be that hot, and I don't want it to rain. So
no, because where you're at, you don't have any shade either, do you?
No.
No, and where I'm at the depot, just hot concrete. No thanks.
No thanks.
Okay,
you got an ad to start off our show?
I do have a couple ads.
Okay,
let me get to them here. This is funny. Let's do You
must be good. She's already laughing.
Yeah, let's do this ad.
Oh, my goodness sakes. What in the holy heck?
This is for cricketer suits. Have you ever heard of cricketer?
No, but I guess you can do gymnastics in them.
How funny. Anything you can do out of a suit, you can now do in a suit. Cricketeer has come out with a line of 100% polyester knit. It's very blurry.
Dapron polyester knit suits that give you
Can you
almost
read
as
that?
much freedom as your birthday suit. Like the birthday suit, they stretch, twist, bend, and are wrinkle resistant. Yeah. I don't think my birthday suit's wrinkle resistant. Okay.
Not anymore. It used to be. Now it's not.
At the same time, it should be pointed out that while the Cricketeer knit suit is easier to wear, it is also easier to pay for. It's only about $100.
Hey, bonus.
Cricketeer, our suit does anything you can.
Isn't that the most hysterical thing you've seen?
That is so funny.
I mean,
crack up.
I don't even know how I found him. I mean, I don't know. I was like, you've got to be kidding me right now. I don't know. I thought that was the funniest suit I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, it's definitely, marketing-wise, it definitely works because it was a total eye catcher.
Yeah.
You're flipping the pages of a magazine, you're like,
what is that? Yeah, those marketing people are clever. Yeah, that's awesome. But I saw that and I was like, what on earth? And I hope they got, I mean, that poor guy, he has to be. Hopefully he's.
I wonder how old he is now. He probably can't do that anymore. He's probably an old man now.
Yeah.
What was that, in the 80s, you think?
That was a 70s ad.
70s ad?
It was 1970s. Some of the 70s, I might be pulled. The 70s ads are hysterical. What got me, because I was like, I also wanted to do, but I'll have to ask Ty if we can do this. I like these like TikTok things that come on. I don't know if you can use those or what, but it's like if you were born in the 80s, you'll recognize, and it goes to like all the toys from the 80s.
Yeah.
I can just sit there and watch those.
Yeah.
And this was like but I was like, ooh, the 70s. Because some of those things
I can relate to almost all of those. I'm like, yep, I remember that.
I can too. I even because I was born in 67, so I was, raised in the 70s and the 80s. And it was like those 70s ads, I was like, how fun. So then I started messing with 70s ads, and it's like, this is absolutely
that's hysterical. A great one. That's a great one.
It was a great ad. It was a good one. But anyway,
so
we're going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, I think you've got
I have a very interesting story about a murder.
Well, it is cemetery tour time.
Yeah, murder.
We'll be right back.
At your locally owned Napa Auto Parts stores in Flora and Louisville, you can count on experts to have the solutions to keep you running on the road or in the field. More than just your car, the Napa Auto Parts stores in Flora and Louisville carry a large inventory of Napa products for farms, heavy trucks, and just about everything that moves. Experienced associates understand your needs and are ready to help with the perfect part at a great value. That's Napa Know-How at your locally owned Napa Auto Parts stores in Flora and Louisville. Briscoe Surplus Sales on the northeast edge of Flora is your one-stop do-it-all shop. Looking for rugged boots and footwear from great brands like Lacrosse, Rocky, and Carolina? They're there. How about top-notch small engine parts and service? Briscoe Surplus Sales has it. Whether you're wiring your switches or switching your wiring, Briscoe Surplus Sales has the solution and the know-how to help you get the job done right the first time. Briscoe Surplus Sales, your one-stop do-it-all shop.
We like technology at Flora Savings Bank. Here's what you can accomplish in our mobile banking app in less than 30 seconds. See account balances in your transactions, set up an account alert, make a transfer between accounts, get an alert text message about your transfer, pay a bill, turn your debit card off and then back on. It all happens in the palm of your hand with our free My Bank to Go app. Search My Bank to Go in the App Store or Google Play and give mobile banking a try. Flora Savings Bank, member FDIC, and equal housing lender.
Welcome back to By the Way with Beth and Stacey. Today's topic is a murder that happened in Southern Illinois.
Southern Illinois.
Yes, so it's actually murders.
Ooh,
it's plural.
Plural.
And okay, so this story is not local to Clay County, but it is local to Saline County, where I lived when I was a kid. So I pulled this story because I read this book in the late 80s when I was probably only in like 5th grade or 6th grade, and it is called Murder in Little Egypt. So some of you may be familiar with this story. You may know where I'm going with this story. You can, if you're interested in learning more about this story, this book is available at the Flora Public Library.
Before you go on, have we ever discussed why we were called Little Egypt?
No, but I can talk about that for people that are watching from
I'm
out of the
not
area.
Really sure if I know.
So
Do you know?
out of the
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's fine. So Southern Illinois is called Little Egypt. Years ago, it was more commonly referred to that. I want to say, like in the 60s and 70s, even people that lived in that area would be like, "I'm going to the other side of Egypt today," or what they might use it in conversation. Nowadays, it's still known that that's Little Egypt to people that live there, but most people don't use it in a conversation. Growing up in the 80s in Saline County, I don't know anybody that said anything about, I live in Egypt, or,
our school conference was the Little Egypt conference.
Yes. Yeah, so Little Egypt is typically Harrisburg South. It's usually not any of the communities north of Harrisburg. That's why I was always confused while we were in that conference, because to me, we were too far north. But if you look on a map at the bottom of Illinois and you kind of make a little bit of a triangle out of it, it kind of becomes the shape of Egypt.
Okay.
The real Egypt. And so that's kind of where it started, was like if you go from this river to this river and then down to Cairo at the bottom, it's the shape of Egypt. Mm-hmm. So anybody that lived within that area was referred to as Little Egypt. It's just a nickname for Southern Illinois. Now, at the beginning of this book, the author, this book is written by Darcy O'Brien, and I don't know Darcy O'Brien. I don't know if that person's still alive or not, but I all of my research is credited to him or her, I'm not sure. I think it's a him, because I read this book when I was young. I reread it again when I was a teenager because it was so fascinating to me, because so many of the names in the book are familiar to me and the locations are familiar to me, and it would be as if there was a book written about something crazy that happened in Clay County. You would probably read it more than once because you're familiar with the things in it. But I just reread it again in the last week just to get my facts straight in my brain about what happened. So basically, this is the story of a man named Dale Cavaness. Okay, he was a doctor in Southern Illinois, and he grew up in El Dorado, which El Dorado is right outside of Harrisburg, about 7 miles outside of Harrisburg. He never really liked his mother. She was very strict, but he had a nice dad. But he was always like a perfectionist and like an overachiever. So like whatever he did, he had to be the best at. He was like super uber competitive. So like at basketball, he had to be the best. Even though he wasn't the tallest or the most athletic, he had to be the best player. And he was just kind of that way all through school. All through college, he goes off to become a doctor. And ends up marrying his high school sweetheart. Her name was Helen, and her dad was a doctor. And this was during the Depression. So this is where we're at the beginning of the story, is like the late 20s, early 30s, I think, is that when he was a kid, he saw how the medical care was in Southern Illinois, and nobody had any money.
Excuse me.
So he was kind of realizing that he wanted to help people. So then by the time he got to college, I believe it was like the 40s, early 40s by then, his father-in-law was a doctor, and he wanted to be like him. So him and his first wife lived in St. Louis while he went to medical school, and she met another man while she was there we don't know anything of any of the story from her point of view. She didn't interview for the book. She didn't give out any information, but he was never home. So he was always either in class or away. He was never home. She met somebody else and she left him.
Oh, okay.
Pretty early on in their marriage. They weren't married very long. My opinion is that she knew after she married him, like, oh crap, this dude's crazy, and I'm married to him, and he's nuts.
Right.
And so she got out of the picture, even though back then, divorce was still like not widely accepted. She did it anyway. Her name was Helen. Okay, so right after Helen left him, I mean, like a day or a few days later, he went to this other friend that was Helen's friend that they kind of hung out with sometimes, and her name was Marianne. And I think I'm saying it right. She kind of spells it like Marion, but I think she says it Marianne. Anyway, she was like, oh my gosh, what happened? And he's like, oh, she left me and I'm just heartbroken. He really played it up to where she agreed to go out with him just to console him because he was so lonely and upset he needed someone to talk to.
Okay.
Well, then he kind of played that line. And this is in a very short time since his wife just left him.
Right.
He immediately goes after her. So I'm sorry, but like...
He wasn't too upset.
Yeah, he really wasn't.
He wasn't too upset.
No, he wasn't. So anyway... He dated this Marianne, and she was a city girl. She was a nurse at one of the hospitals that I think he helped at. And she wanted to be an airline stewardess. That was her dream. She was already a nurse, but she wanted to be an airline stewardess. And so she started dating him and ended up marrying him. But while he was still doing some studies, they ended up living in New York and somewhere else out east. She was a stewardess for that time period, just like year or two in the 50s. But yeah, because by then I think it's the early 50s. The book isn't always real clear on the dates on what's happening. You kind of just have to make your own timeline. It does mention dates here and there, but to me, I could use a date like in every paragraph. Like now it's 1960. Now
very
it's
specific.
Yeah. Okay, so. By the time they were married it was like the day of their first year anniversary or the day before their 1 year anniversary, he punched her so hard in the face that I think it knocked her out for a minute, and she never even saw it coming, didn't know what happened. She thought they were just having a funny conversation, and she made a joke, and he didn't take it as a joke. And that was when the abuse started. So he was abusive physically toward Marianne. Another episode of abuse to her is one time she disagreed with something he said, and he grabbed her hand and he bent her thumb back till it broke.
Oh my gosh!
Bent it back like as far as it could, and just completely shattered her thumb. And then walked out. Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah, he's super mean. But this is the flip side of it, is that everybody in Southern Illinois loved him. So after he finished school, after he finished school, they moved back. And at first he moved to McLeansboro. Now, Marianne was super upset about this because she wanted to live in the city. She had been in St. Louis, New York, Washington, D.C., I think was maybe the other one, or Baltimore. I don't remember, somewhere over there. And she was a city girl, so she was like, what? We're moving? Like, he hadn't discussed it with her. He didn't discuss things with his wife.
A man like that doesn't do that.
No, he just walked in one day and he said, we're moving to McLeansboro. I bought a practice off of a doctor there that's retiring, and I also bought his home, and we're moving, like, I don't know if it was tomorrow or the end of the week. But can you imagine if you came home tonight and Jim said, Stacey, I bought a business in some other, let's just pick some random town in Utah. Okay. I bought a business in Utah and a house, and we're moving at the end of the week.
Have a nice time in Utah, buddy.
Yeah.
All right.
Kidding. Like, I can't
I'll
even
have to find
imagine.
somebody else to do my laundry now.
I know.
Yeah.
Well,
seriously.
That's how he did, man. He just was like,
of course, we're talking the 60s.
Yeah, he was definitely
even though
male
she's an
chauvinist.
Educated woman, it's still the 60s.
Yep.
Yeah, not a lot of places for her to go.
Nope. So she was sad because she didn't want to live. She had never lived anywhere other than the city. She had visited El Dorado before with him and met his parents, whom his mother was not a loving woman. Eventually, Marianne came to figure out his mom was just kind of weird, and you just got to take her as she is.
He hates women.
But his mom loved him so much that, like, she would do anything for him, and she didn't like no one was good enough for him. So she didn't like Marianne because she didn't like the first wife either. Neither one of them were good enough for her little boy.
Yeah, and he's a horrible person.
Oh yeah, he's a horrible person. You don't even know yet how horrible he is. Oh my gosh, this this story just gets crazier and crazier. So they moved to McLeansboro, and then he becomes a doctor there, and he is super successful. And eventually, everybody in McLeansboro is just like, "Oh,
wow,
this Dr. Cavaness is so good. He healed my mother, and I had a terrible fever, and he healed me, and he's just so good." And they would go to him for everything. I mean, and they really put him up on a pedestal. Meanwhile, and when he would go out in public, he would be like, "Oh, Stacey, how are you? So nice to see you. You guys doing okay? You've been getting along good? How's that little boy doing? He liking that tricycle?" You know, just super sweet and fake. But at home,
a terror.
Terror. Total opposite. Super mean, abusive. Meanwhile, guess who's pregnant?
Oh,
Marianne.
Oh, Marianne's pregnant.
And she, like a lot of women, have thought, well, maybe the baby will, maybe things will get better. They don't. They don't. But
they don't.
But they were in McLeansboro for a while, and then just out of the blue one day, he comes home and he says, "Marianne, I've decided that we are moving to El Dorado. I've moving my practice to El Dorado," which these days wouldn't be that big of a deal to live in one town and drive back and forth to the other, because the distance between McLeansboro and El Dorado it's not maybe 20 minutes. Yeah, it's not far.
Kind of like from here to Sisney. I mean, not even that far. Yeah.
But anyway, so
picking up, moving again.
She didn't want to move, but he said he had a house picked out, and she said, "I will agree." She's starting to get a little braver. She said, "I will agree to move to El Dorado with you, but I'm picking the house out."
So she did get a little grit and gumption.
She got a little bitty baby bit of it. Then I think, I'm not sure, I'd have to go back and read it, but I think the house that he had picked out, she went to and actually loved. So it was kind of she said, I'm picking out the house, but the one that he had in mind was really nice. It was big. It was a great big house. It looked like
Is it still standing there?
No, I'll get to that later. So
I want to jump into the story.
It was a great big house that looked like, when you think of a doctor's house, and this is in the 60s, 70s, they always had like one of the biggest houses in town, in small towns anyway.
Sure.
And it was a very nice house. Okay, so they moved there. And he quickly became everybody's favorite doctor.
Everybody's favorite doctor.
In El Dorado. And people would wait hours to see him. Hours to see him. They would sit in their cars until 9 p.m. at night to get in to see him.
Wow.
And some people, this is because he's such a jerk, just most people didn't know it. Some people he would let in through the back door. So if you were his friend, like Stacey, you're real good friends with him, and you call him up and be like, "Doc, I got something really wrong with me today." And he'd be like, yeah, I got you. Come in through the back door. You won't have to wait. And so he had people he liked come in through the back door, which made the line even longer for those people that were either in the waiting room or in their cars, and they would sit there for hours. They wouldn't go to any other doctor but him.
Oh, man. Boy, he was a devil in disguise.
He was a devil in disguise.
Wow.
But the real kicker to this is he really wasn't that good of a doctor.
Oh,
he over the years had different medical malpractice suits. There was one incident where he did something. There was an accident or something. Somebody came in through the ER and he did something, and anyway they died. He did it. I think he did it wrong. There were other incidents in the book where he messed up, but it always got shoved under the rug. No one would talk about it. And the families that were affected by his bad care, if they spoke up in town, everyone just shut him down.
Yeah.
He'd be like, "Oh, I don't like Doc Cavaness. He killed my mother-in-law if he wouldn't have given her that medicine," and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, "You hush it. He's the best doctor around. Everybody around here, everyone makes mistakes. I don't want it." Like, they were bullied to shut up.
Well, we're going to take a commercial break.
Okay. We'll be back with the rest of the story.
Oh, my gosh.
If you're looking for a loan for your brand new home, call Clay County State Bank. If you want to transfer money so your future will look sunny, call Clay County State Bank. We got checking and savings and bill pay too.
An online bank, just ask our crew. For all your banking needs, we think you will agree.
Clay County State Bank is the place you need to be.
Clay County State Bank.
At
Clay City Banking Company, we're all on the same team, regardless of zip code. At home, work, school, or across the country, you can be part of our team with our cutting-edge mobile banking products. From your hand, you can check balances, transfer money, make deposits, and pay bills. Looking for a loan? We've got you covered with our mortgage, agriculture, commercial, and consumer loans. Join our team today. Clay City, Flora, Louisville, and Fairfield Banking Companies. We're the hometown banks, member FDIC, and equal housing lender.
Tomorrow. Some fear the uncertainty it brings. Some trust the promise it holds. At Grinnell Mutual, we are always looking forward to tomorrow, growing and innovating. So even if the plans you have for the future aren't the same as the plans that the future holds for you, you can be ready. Because we'll be ready, like we have been for over 100 years. Trust in that. Trust in tomorrow. Talk to your mutual agent today.
Your local agent is on the square. Louisville, Clay County, Farmers Mutual Insurance.
Welcome back to By the Way with Beth and Stacey. We're talking about the story of Dale Cavaness, a doctor in Southern Illinois that was a devil in disguise and
an absolute horrendous person.
A horrendous person. Let's take a look at this.
I want to
Dr.
see this
Cavaness.
Guy.
I got pictures here. Let's look at this one. All right,
is that his wife?
That's him and
Look
his
how
wife.
Pretty she is.
I know, isn't she beautiful? She was from a nice family, and she always was a real lady, real classy lady. Like a lot of people compared her to Jackie Kennedy.
She's beautiful.
Like she dressed classy like Jackie, and she had that look, and she was just a very sweet person. And then that's Crazy Pants over there next to her.
Crazy Pants Kavanaugh.
Yeah, Dale Cavaness.
Cavaness.
Yeah, and he just looks like a nice doctor there, doesn't he?
Yep.
But this was taken, I think this was taken not very long after he broke her thumb.
Wow. Gosh.
Yeah.
Do you have any other pictures?
Oh, yeah. Let's go to the next one.
Let's see some more. I just want to punch you in the face.
This is a family picture. So that's Mary Ann.
3 little boys.
At this point, they had 3 little boys. They went on to have 4 little boys. And this Dale hated having his picture taken with the family. He would throw a fit almost every time that she only asked at Christmas for a picture. He was abusive to all of the boys when he was home. He was hardly ever home. This man would work all day, and then he would either work in the evenings or go wherever it was he went. He had women on the side. He was hardly ever around these kids. They played basketball. They did fun things in school, and he would just not show up. He didn't go to anything. He didn't act interested in them. The oldest boy...
And the community didn't take note of that?
Yeah, right. No, they didn't.
Man, he had them snowed.
He was a busy man. They all had his back. Oh, well, we know why your dad's not here. He's a busy man.
He's helping everybody.
So the oldest son, his name was Mark. The second one was Kevin. The third one was Sean. And the fourth one was Patrick. Okay? They were... Even from a young age, like Kevin can remember one of his earliest memories is his dad, I think he said he was in the bathroom shaving, and he was only 4 years old, and he's like, "Daddy, what are you doing? Daddy, what are you doing?" And then kind of playing hide and seek with his dad in the bathroom, and so he walked behind him and hid in the closet because he knew his dad was going to walk over to the closet to put the things that he was using away, and then he was going to be like, "Ha ha, you found me." Instead, his dad locked him in the closet. Pretended he didn't see him, didn't laugh along with him, and then shut that closet and locked it and left him in there for a few hours in the pitch dark while this 4-year-old boy is screaming because he wanted out. He was locked in the dark closet. Just little head games like that. That's just one example, what he did with the kids. But he also was, physically abusive. So, one time they were tossing things back and forth in the room, and he was like, "Don't do that." And the one boy went ahead and tossed it one more time or something, because that's what boys do.
That's what they do.
Kids always do stuff like that.
One more time.
But boys especially. And he had them strip their pants off, and he beat them with a metal spatula, and crying wasn't allowed. So if you cried, you were beat longer. It was very sad.
Gosh, he
was a horrible, horrible person. I'm only going to say that 50 more times because it just gets worse.
Please tell me he gets his in the end. I got to know what. Okay, just go. Just keep talking. I want this man to be punished so bad it's not even funny.
I know, right? Okay, so at his office, he also did insurance fraud. So he He was.
Of course he did.
He was like diagnosing people with things just on paper. I mean, nowadays I don't think you could do this because I think the insurance companies are in the hospital. Everyone, there's just more paperwork now.
Right.
But back then, these doctors, I can remember even in the 80s, my mom worked in Harrisburg for a group of doctors. And not their fault, they were all good doctors, but the drug representatives would come in with freebies and stuff, and there was a closet back there where all of the extra freebies were. So, like, anybody that worked at the clinic that needed, like, if they needed an antibiotic or something, they didn't have to go to the pharmacy. They could just, the doctor would be like, oh, I have a sample of that. And the doctor would give it to them. It's not like they just went and rated it themselves.
No.
But everything was just a lot more free back then. Like, there weren't as many rules. And nowadays, I don't think even a doctor could do that. I think they'd have to be like, it has to be written. It has to all go through the right paperwork and all this. But anyway. So he had an assistant that did, it was basically his office manager, did all of his paperwork, all of his stuff. Her name was Marilyn. And she had a very nice husband. I don't remember his name, but they sometimes hung out with Dr. Cavaness and Marianne, like off the clock, you know. But it didn't take her very long to realize how he was. And she also realized that she knew too much. Like, she knew everything about his business, and she knew all of the ins and the outs and what he was doing. And he was asking her for signatures on things that never happened, on like insurance forms that said this or that weren't true. She knew what he was doing, and he was getting more money.
Knew he was violent too.
And and so she
would have had to have seen some of that.
Yeah, and they had major blow-ups. So she is the only woman that's, in my opinion, after reading this story, really stood up to him, because he would mouth off to her, and she would mouth off back to him, and they would get in big screaming matches, and she would quit and walk out. And then he knew how bad he needed her, because he didn't want to trust anyone else with all of this information. So then he would come crawling back and really pour it on thick, like how much he appreciated her, and he was sorry he was hard on her, and apologize, and then she would come back.
Right.
And it would go back and forth. She sounds to me like she quit multiple times.
Right.
Eventually she did quit for good, and she got away from him. Okay.
Jeez.
But it was a real tumultuous relationship between his office manager and him too, because she knew a lot. Her name was Marilyn. Well, then after Marilyn was gone, they had to replace her. Well, there was a hometown boy named Eddie who was looking for a job back home. He'd been living in Evansville. Real nice young kid. Didn't seem to have probably a whole lot of self-confidence at the time, but the doctor was like, okay. Basically, I think Dr. Cavaness saw that he could probably mold Eddie into exactly what he wanted to be.
Manipulate
him. Yes, an easy person to manipulate. And so Eddie went to work for him, and Eddie had been his patient before. So Eddie was like, oh, I'm going to work for Dr. Cavaness, you know. And Eddie's mother was like telling everyone in town, oh, Eddie's going to work for Dr. Cavaness. Like, won't that be a good job? I mean, he's such a wonderful man. I mean, what an opportunity. And he's going to be his office manager and run all of his finances and blah, blah, blah. Well, Eddie realizes not very far into it, this is a bad deal, because I know too much. This man is incredibly violent. I do not trust him. And he kept trying to put Eddie on meds. So Eddie was a little overweight. He was a little pudgy. Well, back then, there still are drugs for weight loss, I know, but back then there were some that aren't legal now. Basically, it was amphetamines.
Yeah.
And he kept trying to put him on that stuff. Well, at first Eddie took it, and he realized like a week or two into it, like, I can't take this. Like, I can't sleep. I'm shaking. I'm a nervous wreck. Yeah. Well, you're on methamphetamines.
Yeah. Basically.
Yeah. So he quit taking him, and the doctor kept trying to put him back on it. And I think the reason was because he knew when he was on that, he had more control over him.
Yeah.
And he prescribed that kind of thing for tons of people down there.
Gosh.
Okay. So Eddie eventually got away from him too, but it took a long time for him to plan out how to disentangle himself and to get away and to keep himself and his family safe at the same time, because he wasn't only worried for his safety, but for his mother's safety and everyone's safety. I know I don't have a ton of time, but there's just so many little stories on him. So Dr. Cavaness was not good with money, and Eddie knew this, Marilyn knew this. He should have had a small fortune of money because he was the #1 doctor down there. People were driving. It wasn't just El Dorado people that were coming to see him. People were driving over from Harrisburg, Marion, Carbondale, Goreville, all over Southern Illinois. Like, they were coming to El Dorado to see this doctor because he's just known far and wide as the best there ever was. In the meantime, he has made a lot of bad business investments, but he was a spender, and he kept buying ground, which is probably a good investment, but he was putting in businesses that weren't successful because he didn't know how to run them. So he was buying a lot of cattle and breeding cattle, but and then not really being super successful at it, but also taking, like, I guess in the cattle business, like, you can sell like semen from certain breeds off to other breeders. Yeah. And he would lie that this was a purebred whatever, and it wasn't. So he was totally dishonest in that business too. He also started catfish, which is a funny, now that catfish has another word. He had a catfish farm where he was farming catfish, like farm raised catfish that people would buy to eat. But there was a lot of dishonest stuff going on there, and anyway, he had a lot of land, and he was like putting trailers out there on the land and letting some people live on the land. Then for some reason out of nowhere, he deeded like a bunch of the land over to this helper of his, and gave him some of the land. Come to find out later, that was kind of a payment, hush money. I'm going to give you 50 acres, and you're not going to tell on one of the things that I did. Okay, so what we know now, he doesn't have a lot of money because he's wasted it all on these bad business ideas. He has like a bunch of creditors coming after him. I mean, every bank in Southern Illinois had him listed as a no loan coming after you. A lot of credit card companies were after him. He had no money. So then guess what happens? Their house burns down.
Oh, of course it did.
Yeah. So
was the entire family in it? Did he take out life insurance policy on all of his children? Yeah. Oh, no.
She might have just figured out what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
Wow.
So the house burned, and I think, gosh, I wish I could remember, but I think the housekeeper was there and maybe the little baby, and they got out. So no one died in that fire, but everything was lost. Everything. And so
did the community rally and have pork burger sales to raise all sorts of money?
Well,
so
I don't know.
Are they kind of starting to think maybe he's not that great yet?
No, nobody's caught on. But at this time that the house burnt down, he wasn't even living there. He was living with a girlfriend out in a trailer on some of his property, and he had left Marianne and the 4 children in this big house. But most of the people in town didn't really know that, and if they did know that, no one talked about it because nobody would say anything bad about him.
Okay.
So he's and honestly, the people that did know blame Marianne.
Oh, of course they did.
She's not a nice wife, you know.
Yeah, she's such a horrible person.
Wrong. She was an angel lady, I think. I mean, I know there's always more to the story, but this woman had to be a saint to put up with him as long as she did. Okay. So he's not even living there. The house burns down. So Marianne and her 4 little boys have to find somewhere to live. He didn't even immediately offer for them a place to live. They had to go stay with friends. So they were staying with different friends around town, and Mark went to stay with a friend of his, and Kevin went to stay with a friend of his.
Now, these people have got to be talking behind the scenes. Come on now. At this point.
Eventually, I mean, this went on for, I want to say, maybe a couple of months. Again, all of it's in the book, so don't quote me on all of the smaller details.
We got to take a commercial break.
Oh, okay.
And then we're going to end this story.
Okay. I'll have to wrap it up quick.
You're going to have to wrap it up quick.
Of pictures.
I want to know what's going on. We'll be right back.
Do you bowl like this? That's great. Do you bowl like this? That's great too. That's because whether you're a pro or you just want to have a lot of fun, at Peggle's Silver Dollar Lanes, we have a lane for you. We have galaxy bowling, gaming for kids and adults, Joe's Pizza, a full bar, darts, pool, and fresh and clean bowling shoes. Boy, does that smell nice. So come on down to Pagel, Silver Dollar Lanes in Effingham, where we have a lane for you.
My name is Robin Stanford. I own Stanford Marketing. It's a promotional products business along with an embroidery business. And we do custom hats, t-shirts, anything, you name it, we can make it. People like that we do stuff in-house and we can actually make things here and that we're not contracting to work out to other places. We never say no. We always try to find a way to do it. If anybody can do it, we can do it. We are hardworking women, that is for sure. Come to Stanford Marketing in Flora for all your custom and promotional needs.
Jimmy ordered lumber, doors, paint, windows, electrical, plumbing, and much more. Oh yeah, Jimmy ordered guns too.
John Lucas.
What?
You better be dreaming about all the stuff we sell here at Zink Building Center.
Oh, I would. Zink Building Center in Louisville on Route 45. It's a cool place.
Welcome back to By the Way with Beth and Stacey. We're talking about Dale Cavaness, terrible man, and I have still quite a bit to cover, so I'm going to just start going fast. Okay,
Just go.
Okay, so he eventually put his wife and the kids into a trailer in El Dorado after the house fire. Finally, he was like, "Here's a trailer, stay in it." And I don't think it was a very nice trailer. They lived there for a while. And then eventually, they ended up getting a house in Harrisburg that they lived in. But his kids were growing up, and just to fast forward a little bit, Mark was the oldest, and Mark was, I think we have a picture of Mark. That's Kevin. So not that. That one's Mark, yeah. This is the oldest son here, Mark. And he kind of really struggled because his dad didn't, he knew his dad didn't love him. His dad didn't want anything to do with him. He ended up kind of running with a little bit of a rougher crowd, kind of smoked pot off and on, was just sort of struggling, trying to find his place in the world. And then it was Thanksgiving, and his dad, I don't know if he called him and said, "Meet me at the land. I got something to give you," or whatever. But anyway, what happened is Mark drove out to the land, and Dr. Cavaness shot him in the head and killed him for the life insurance money that he had just taken out on him a few weeks before.
So he killed his oldest son.
He killed his oldest son for life insurance money. Then he rigged the gun on the seat of the truck and made it look like, with a coat hanger, that Mark had rigged it to commit suicide.
Yeah.
And then laid his body out at the side of the truck and in an area that he purposely had him park, knowing there were a lot of animals in that area. His body wasn't found for another little over 24 hours, I want to say. And pretty much all that was left of it from the waist up was a skeleton. The animals had eaten everything. The waist down, there was still enough to identify him. They did identify him by dental records, but no one suspected the doctor. They thought he was a troubled young man, and
Sure.
And he killed himself. The mother, Mary Ann, she doubted it. And she actually had a few moments of panic after Dale had stopped by and said something, because at this time they're completely separated. And she in her own mind questioned whether he did it, but she could never prove it. And she just was like, pushed it out of her mind as not even a possibility.
Oh boy.
Okay. So they were all really struggling with all of that. Kevin ended up moving to St. Louis, and he met a really nice girl there that was originally from El Dorado, I believe, but then she also went to St. Louis with him, and her name was Charlie. This is a picture of them, Kevin and Charlie.
So he escaped.
He moved to St. Louis, and he had her to confide in, and he just kind of I think they did okay. It was still a struggle. But Sean, the next one, he moved over there to be near them. And this is Sean, and he had his own struggles. He was, had a drinking problem. Really, by the age of like 13, he had a drinking problem. All of these kids were just their dad. It was just such a mental game with their dad, and they had been so abused that they struggled. And so he had an apartment by himself over there in St. Louis. His dad never contacted him. Okay. Never had anything to do with his dad. But this is where his dad messed up. Sean always desired a relationship with his dad. So he would contact him and be like, try to talk to him, and his dad would just blow him off. Well, one day, just out of the blue, his dad shows up in St. Louis, and
now is he he's
not the youngest.
He's the third.
The youngest at this time is Patrick, and and he was still a teenager. He was still in school, and he was with his mom, who had gotten remarried. And so they were kind of, and I think they moved to Cape Girardeau. So Patrick was kind of with his mom in a safe place. Kevin and Sean were the other two that were left, and they were in St. Louis. Where Dale Cavaness screwed up is he went to St. Louis to kill Sean. Okay. And he picked him up, and the neighbors that lived in his apartment building had written down his license plate number because he had cruised by their apartment building so many times and really slow at night. And so they were trying to figure out who's this person that keeps driving by. So they had written down the license plate number, the make and the model of the car. And then when he got out of the car and greeted Sean, they recognized him because they had met him one other time at Sean's apartment. Okay. So they knew who it was. Well, he picked Sean up, and then knowing that Sean had a drinking problem and had just gotten out of rehab, he took him drinking down on Laclede's Landing and got him super drunk. His blood alcohol level was double the legal limit. And then he took him out kind of over by out on 44, kind of out in the country a little bit, I think toward Arnold, I think they said, and pulled over in an area and shot him in the head and left him there. And then drove back to El Dorado, and then went to a Christmas party that night, Peggy Osmond's Christmas party. Now, the funny thing about Peggy Osmond is because she was a real estate agent in Harrisburg, and she had this big Christmas party every year at one of the hotels, and she actually lived on the corner from where we lived on Lincoln Street.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I actually knew who she was.
Wow.
Okay, so then he drove back that night and went to that Christmas party and acted like nothing had ever happened. And in fact, he had just shot his second son, the second son that is actually third in lineup, but he the second one he killed that morning. But where he screwed up is that he did it in St. Louis. So this whole time there was a man in Saline County named Jack Nolan who was a detective, and he had been researching Mark's death for several years now, and he had come to the conclusion that it had to be Cavaness that did it, but he could not find proof to do it, and he couldn't find anything to arrest him on. Well, then fast forward a few years to where Sean is killed in St. Louis, and the investigators in St. Louis, they don't really, Dr. Cavaness doesn't mean squat to them.
No, they
don't care if someone's trying to protect him. Like, they will find out who did it.
They don't care.
And he made a few mistakes over there, and they were able to figure out exactly, mainly because the neighbors could ID the car, that he was there. And then they caught him in so many lies. He lied that he wasn't in St. Louis. He said all these things, but there was proof that he was. Anyway, they arrested him for the death of Sean Cavaness, and then they kept him in jail all through the trial and everything because they were afraid for Kevin and Patrick, the other kids, because they were starting to put it together that he was doing this for life insurance because he had just taken out even more life insurance on Sean like a month or two before this because he was going broke because he was losing everything in these bad business ventures. He needed the money.
Gosh.
So,
I wonder if his mother's still alive during this shining star of hers. Unfortunately,
she had already dead by then.
Yeah.
And so was his dad. And his dad was a really nice guy, and the boys loved the grandpa growing up. He was their safe person. Yeah. Like, he tried to protect him from their dad. But anyway, so there was a big trial in St. Louis. And the first trial, there was a what's that called, where they make a mistake and a mistrial.
Mistrial.
Because they accidentally allowed some evidence in of a lie detector test that he had taken that wasn't, at that time, lie detector tests weren't supposed to be really part of the evidence. So you could do it, but they weren't
Right.
But anyway, so they called a mistrial, and so then he had to stay in prison for another 3 months. Went to trial again, and all of the jurors were like, within 2 hours, they're like, he's totally guilty. It wasn't a question of whether or not he was guilty or not. It was just a question of, I don't remember. There was something they discussed, but anyway, they all knew he did it. Mm-hmm. But during the trial for Sean's murder, they could never bring up Mark's murder. It was 2 separate cases. So they could never, so the jury didn't even know that there was also another son that had gotten shot a few years before. But I don't know. I guess he never was tried for Mark's murder, even though it was proven later that he did do it. Yeah. Because he was convicted in St. Louis, and then it went to a sentencing trial, and he could either be sentenced to life in prison or death by gas chamber. And he was sentenced to death by gas chamber. So he got the death sentence. And they put him in prison, and he didn't spend very long in prison, and then he hung himself and died.
Was he over in St. Louis?
Yes, in St. Louis. Yeah. Do we have more pictures, I think? Or is that all I sent? One last picture. Yeah, here we go. That'll be a good one to end the show. There
boy, that's a demon you're looking at right there. That's
so by that time he was aged, and yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and I think this is 1984 that he was convicted.
What a horrible person.
Yep. So there he is. So that is the story of Dale Cavaness, a very condensed version of it. Again, the name of the book is Murder in Little Egypt, if you would want to check that out from the library. It is a very interesting read.
I can't even, that's just, and his wife, at least she got away. And
yeah, and then she remarried a man that actually loved her and treated her well. And
did they stay in Harrisburg?
Cape Girardeau, I think is where they ended up. Now, the Kevin and Charlie, the young couple there, I believe they stayed in the St. Louis area. I went on Find a Grave. It looks like Kevin passed away a few years ago, but it didn't say anything about Patrick, so I'm assuming he's still alive.
Wow, they escaped.
So, yeah, very sad childhood, sad story for Mark and Sean. And just, a very horrible man.
Yeah, he's probably one of the worst people we've ever covered.
Yeah, honestly. That's why I wanted to talk about it, because it's not necessarily Clay County, but it's only an hour and a half from Clay County, and it's a very interesting story. So, and even after all this came to light, there were still people in that area that defended him.
What?
There were still people that had, and he had even had a drunk driving episode that I didn't get into, where he had a head on and killed a young woman and her baby, a young mother and her baby. And even after that, people still had him on a pedestal.
You're kidding me.
No. The man could do no wrong.
Well, it's just shocking to me how people can stick their head in the sand and be blind to what they want to be blind to. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well,
okay. So now let's jump from sad and depressing into something funny to at least end the show on something funny. So what have you got?
Jack Handy.
Okay.
If I come back as an animal in my next lifetime, I hope it's some type of parasite, because this is the part where I take it easy.
That's funny. Oh, gosh.
Yeah, Jack Handy. Gotta love him.
Yeah.
Beth, tell everybody where they can see us.
We're on Channel 100, Catch TV, daily at 11 a.m. New episodes air on Thursdays and Fridays, but you can find all of our episodes that we've ever made on our YouTube channel, by the way, with Beth and Stacey, or you can just type in Beth and Stacey on YouTube and you'll find us. We're also on Facebook. You can like and follow us there, by the way, with Beth and Stacey.
That's it.
So
we're
that's
done.
it.
That was very interesting.
Yeah, thanks.
That story may make me pick up a book and read it.
Oh my gosh.
That doesn't happen very often.
Thank you for joining us. See you later.
God bless you and have a great day.